Is known for wilderness. We've got the Frank Church River No Return Wilderness.
Right.
It's the largest wilderness in the lower 48 states. We've got the brand new wilderness that we finished a management plan on last year down on the Chalice end of the forest, to Jim McClure Jerry Peak Wilderness. And so, a third of this forest is wilderness right now, and that's a lot of acres. That's probably about 1.3, 1.4 million acres. A little bit bigger picture. 78% of this forest is either designated wilderness, proposed wilderness in the current management plans, or roadless under the Idaho roadless rule. So, there's a significant amount of acreage on this forest that is basically undeveloped, and certainly has potential to be, that could be looked at by Congress as new wilderness. But I'm certainly, there have been concerns expressed to me, and I take those concerns very seriously, both in the Wild Scenic River evaluation and the wilderness evaluation, in regards to closing off any further access and or not allowing folks to be able to do some of the things that they would want to do on the forest, whether it's recreation, firewood cutting, or fishing, or any other activity.
Oh, there's plenty of places to go to do that.
Yeah, there are, but there's people who are concerned. I've been asked by more than one member of the public, Chuck, how much wilderness is enough?
Well,
and I don't know, and we're trying to get to that, trying to get to that point to be able to decide that. So we're right I extended the comment period on our latest stage in the wilderness evaluation process to the end of the month. And then I'll have to make a decision on what areas we've identified that have the greatest potential of what we call the best or wilderness character to be able to take a look at when we get into our environmental analysis of the actual forest management plan that we're putting together. And then the third concurrent process is what we call species of conservation concern. And that's plants, wildlife, fish, birds. And a species of conservation concern would be if I decide to recommend, and again, that's not my decision, that'd be a recommendation of my boss, the regional forester who's in Ogden, Utah. If I identify a species on this list, it means that we're concerned about the persistence of the species to basically be on the forest. There's some things that are impacting that species, and it needs some special attention, I guess might be the best way to characterize it. And so if I do that, then the idea is through our management plan we would identify some activities, some guidelines, some standards that would help keep that, let that species persist and survive on the Salmon Chalice National Forest.
Gotcha. Sounds good. So that's a difficult job you got, but I think we've got the right guy.
I hope so. It is. There's I've encountered a whole spectrum of perspectives and people's opinions on what the forest plan ought to be, how it ought to be conducted, whether I'm following the process, and it's a tough job. I've got a good team. I've got an interdisciplinary team that's totally dedicated to the forest plan, and we spend a lot of time with the public. We're trying to be as transparent as possible. There's no secrets here, and up to this point, I've really made very few decisions. For example, one recent decision I made before the holidays, before the government shut down, was we're at this intermediate stage of our wilderness evaluation. One of what we called focal areas was in and around surrounding the Idaho Cobalt Project up in Blackbird Creek, and that's in the Cobalt Belt. Well, most folks know that Idaho Cobalt is in the process of Formation Capital is in the process of developing a mine there in regards to mining cobalt. So the intent there is that following the process, in and around there is undeveloped area, but due to the the mining activity and the exploration that's occurring in the Cobalt Belt currently, I've had no intention of recommending that area for wilderness, so I pulled that off the table.
Right. Well, obviously it impacts the environment, but there's not much you can do about it with a mine right there.
Right.
So gotcha. Good. All right. So how do people go about if they want to make a comment or anything on the plan? How do they go about doing that?
So we've got we've done everything from people coming into the office and actually talking to myself or Josh Milligan, the ID team leader, or others on the ID team, or any of the district rangers on the districts, we've got a very active website in regards to being able to provide comment, for folks that have internet access, and folks can certainly submit written comments in regards to that. We've got formal comment periods, where we announce that, from this date to this date that you can provide your point of view, your perspective on possibly eligible wild scenic rivers, possible areas for wilderness evaluation, and then we're going to be coming back out on the species of conservation concern here, and what my draft list and recommendation will be to the regional forester. There's a formal comment. My point is there are formal comment periods, and then we'll take comments at any time as we go through this planning process.
Right. Okay, I've got one question for you.
Sure.
We haven't had a whole bunch of snow in the Salmon area, but
Right.
but I'm sure there's more snow higher up. What is our fire season looking like?
Well, it's a little early. I looked at the snowpack last week, and it looked like central Idaho in general was about 81% of normal, so we're behind. And we've got time. We've got time to make things up. I think
Well, if we have a wet spring, it'll help out a lot. Yeah.
it can. Everything's got its pluses and minuses. So, snow, a lot of my career has been in fire management. And the snowpack actually is not a good indicator of what the fire season's going to be. So that's one caveat. You mentioned, we could get a wet spring. That'd be great. That would have the fire season start later, but that'll just grow the grass. If the grass ever dries out, then we're in for a ride.
Right. Well, it's going to dry out. We all know that. So.
Yeah. I think to me the curveball that we've been thrown lately, and irregardless of whether you believe in climate change or not. We're seeing extremes. And even when we get wet periods, good snowpacks, it seems like over just a 3-week period of dry, hot, windy weather, that can become a foregone memory, and we're into fire season. So, if there's anything that no matter how you label it, the weather these days is there is no average anymore. It's all extremes. It's either too wet, too dry, too windy, no wind. And that really impacts what kind of a fire season we have.
One other point that I hear around town quite a bit is at one time we had a pretty good logging industry here. Are we going to open up some areas for logging or anything like that?
As far as to answer your question, we want to promote some active management. There's Mother Nature is going to do what she's going to do. That's kind of out of her control. So we need to control what we can control. We've got a building program on the forest of active management between prescribed fire and fuels management. I'd like to do more.
Well, you have to have the budget to do that, though.
You've got to have a budget to do that, and you've got to have the milling infrastructure to do that too. And that's one of the challenges. Salmon used to have three sawmills. My working circle now is in Montana for any larger milling capacity. And they can only come so far because of travel distance.
Right.
And so there's a substantial amount of the forest the travel distance precludes doing larger scale projects from the standpoint of using timber harvest as a tool.
That's a good point.
And so I know I've talked with lots of folks since I've been here. I've been on the forest now 5.5 years as the forest supervisor, and trying to what can we do to try to incentivize industry to be able to start building back. I can't say we've gotten there yet. But we need to continue to try to work in that fashion, and through the new forest plan process, we're going to identify places where we need, these are the priority areas where we need to do fuels management, and we can use timber harvest and or prescribed fire as a tool to help us change those fuels, so when we get that inevitable wildfire, hopefully we can keep it from impacting values at risk, people's property or people's lives.
That's a good point. Is there any other topics you want to bring up?
I think at this point, I would ask folks, across the forest to be patient with us as we start to ramp up again. Like I said, it's been tough on the employees. They're starting to somewhat get back in the swing of things. We've still got another week of uncertainty, not knowing what's going to happen.
Right.
Damn it!
And but that I would certainly invite folks to if they've got questions, they need firewood permit. wondering about hiring, please contact us, come in and see us, and we'll try to best meet your needs, as we can. And certainly, field and fire season is right around the corner, so we're definitely into the swing of things with seasonal and permanent hiring.
All right, sounds great. Well, Chuck, we want to thank you very much for coming in today, and it was good to meet you.
Yeah, I greatly appreciate it. Look forward to coming in again.
Yeah, come on in anytime. We'd love to talk to you.
All right.
Sounds great. Have a great day.
Thank you.
You bet. And we got weather coming up here in just a bit.